Call the meeting's order of the committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brewer? Here. Trustee Grant? Here. Trustee Jones?
Here.
Trustee Tate? Here. Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Zupan? Here.
Thank you. We'll go into public comment. All questions and comments shall be directed to the mayor. Each speaker may comment on any matter pertaining to business of the Sauk Village. Each speaker is allowed one opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not engage in debate. For what? No one? Okay. All right, we'll go to the next item, which is, I'm sure the trustees got a copy of the text amendment that the zoning board had a meeting. It's pretty self-explanatory. What it is, it was held August 28th. It's a proposed amendment approving and establishing a motor fueling facility as a permitted use in the M2 manufacturing district. And what they did, the zoning board had a meeting, and at that time, they voted on recommending to the mayor and the board of trustees to grant the text amendment. Are there any questions on that? Everyone get the ordinance. So this is something we will be voting on next Tuesday. All right. Second item, Madam Clerk, tax appeal form.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report is very brief. I talked about this before, but at that time we did not have a solid date. We have a date now for consideration, and that is October the 25th, 2017, here at the Village, 6:30 p.m. This would be for all of Bloom Township, not just Sauk Village, but we will be hosting along with Commissioner Larry Rogers. I'm not certain if we would need to use this space for the senior center at this point in time because I don't know how many people are here, but I am going to ask people to RSVP if they will, but we know how that may turn out. Are there any questions?
I do have one question. Do you have to know the dates that Bloom Township is open for appeals?
No, but I will find that out for you then.
Just want to make sure that we're not too close to the deadline with this date.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Any other questions? Okay, moving along, Mr. Wizardwadi has two proposals. One is the CSEDC Solar Development LLC. A proposal that when he met with these gentlemen, Mr. Pruitt and Mr. Reggie Greenwood, and he's going to give us a summary of what was involved and what they want to try to get the village involved in.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Tonight, I invited Mark Pruitt and Reggie Greenwood out from CSEDC Solar. Reggie kind of wears a multitude of different hats, whereas Mark Pruitt is a specialist in solar energy and has the presentation. I'm going to let him kind of go over the nuts and bolts of that. And the reason why is because we've been approached by a couple of different entities that are looking to do solar developments. And I don't want to steal Mark's thunder, but P.L.A.N and the Illinois legislature kind of partnered up on this deal to use solar energy. So there's a lot of money on the table. Mark, so there's a lot of money on the table, so there's a lot of companies out there that are doing a lot of taking speculative options on property around Sauk Village, around other communities as well. So we really don't have a process in which to vet these companies in determining whether or not they are viable, whether or not they are a good fit for the community. So, yeah, so that's why I kind of referred a lot of the stuff to Reggie and to Mark, because it's like, you know, we've got a situation where we don't have the staffing in order to determine if these companies are even valid. So what Mark and Reggie did is they did a presentation at the quarterly forum for their CS EDC in Flossmoor, which I was at. And in fact, the presentation that you have here is, I think it's pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so the presentation is pretty much the same thing. So I wanted him to come out and explain what they do, what they're about, and what they can do to help Sauk Village along with this process. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark Pruitt. No relation to Mark.
We don't know that. Probably have a much better family events than I do. Mine all will be mine. Thank you all very much for your time this evening. My name is Mark Pruitt. I'm a consultant that's been retained by the Chicago South.
He is?
It sounds like you're real loud.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Very good. My name is Mark Pruitt. I'm a consultant that's been engaged by the Chicago Southland Economic Development Corporation. Reggie Greenwood is the primary lead. He's not able to be here this evening, but he is available to follow up at any time. By way of background, I'm a consultant. I specialize in energy planning and procurement. Prior to serving as a consultant, where right now I work at Argonne National Lab and Illinois Institute of Technology. Prior to those positions, I was at the Illinois Power Agency. That's the state agency that negotiates wholesale power agreements for ComEd and Ameren that sets the rates for residential and small commercial customers. Before that, I worked at University of Illinois at Chicago, where I managed electricity and natural gas purchasing for all 39 state agencies. So I'm a procurement person. The presentation before you, I won't bore you with reading all of it, but the crux of the issue is this. CSEDC exists to assist economic development in the Southland. There's a feeling now that with the current incentives that are going to be made available to solar development in Illinois starting next year, that those funds could be used to leverage solar development, particularly on brownfield parcels that really can't be used for any other purpose. In investigating this, CSEDC has heard from a number of the Southland communities that there's a lot of developers coming in and making a lot of claims and asking for a lot of input and in some cases concessions. This has led to the outgrowth of CSEDC creating a solar division. I'm a consultant to that solar division, and our purpose is to advise municipalities. So we're not selling solar panels. We don't do that. Our job is to serve as an advisor for municipalities who are being approached by developers, that we can assist in whatever way the municipality sees as appropriate. If there are proposals that are brought to the municipality that you simply want to have reviewed, we can do that. If there are parcels of municipally owned property that you want to evaluate to see if they would be appropriate for solar development, we can do that as well. If you have residents, and we're largely talking about your larger industrial commercial properties, if they are interested in some solar development and they want some assistance in working with and identifying the right type of developer for their type of facility, we can do that as well. So really we're a facilitator in this process. Our goal is to capture as much of the approximately $200 to $300 million in incentives that are going to flow to renewable energy development in this state into this region. The bottom line is that all consumers are going to pay for this, so the goal is to try to get as much of that capital investment into this region. So just wanted to touch on a few things in the presentation. If you could, go to the fourth slide, the one that's headed as Future Energy Jobs Act, or FEJA. This is the legislation that was passed last December, signed by the governor, and it has three primary components. One was the zero emissions credit, which is a subsidy to support the continued operation of 2 of the state's nuclear power plants. There are changes to the state's energy efficiency standards. These increase the number of dollars, the budgets, going into the energy efficiency programs that are managed by Commonwealth Edison, as well as Ameren, the downstate utility. And then there are changes to the renewable portfolio standard. If you flip the page to page 5, we've just identified some of the specifics here. The real primary issues here are that in the past, there have been some funds available for renewables. The new law radically increases those funds. In the past, the utilities could enter into agreements to support those projects. In the new law, they're required to do so. So what we expect is to see a lot more activity on the solar development side, because one last element here is that solar, the carve out for solar, the prioritization of solar has moved from 6% carve out to a 50% carve out, effectively. So you're going to get a lot of attention. Maybe you have, and it will continue. But this is what's driving all this, right? It's not that all of a sudden Illinois became attracted to solar developers. It's plowing a lot of money into solar development that's brought the developers. Moving a few slides forward, if you don't mind, to the opportunities for Sauk Village. These are very general things, and this is where we've spent quite a bit of time at the CSEDC to say, okay, well, what can the municipalities get out of this? And so we identified a few different buckets. Over on the far left is the revenue bucket. We think that dormant properties might be reactivated, and they might start to develop some meaningful property tax revenues. There's also the opportunity for municipalities that have property that they would like to lease to a developer to place solar panels on, that they can have that lease revenue coming to the municipality. There are also other options here if in-kind services or something that some of the developers are mentioning. They're saying, well, you know, if you allow us to build on this parcel, we'll replace all the streetlights in the municipality with LED streetlights. You know, those are just some things that we've been hearing. There's also the aspect of jobs and job training. The solar assets are all very heavily dependent upon a skilled workforce of folks who work in the metalworking, that's the frame for the framing that holds the panels, and the electricians. They're actually doing all the wiring and cabling and laying out of these assets. And then the data folks, the people who monitor the performance and ensure that the assets are feeding into the grid in a safe and appropriate manner. Moving over to the next bucket of positioning, there isn't if it is something that is of interest to the municipality, there could be ways of securing some of the electricity coming off of these solar assets at a price that is lower than the prevailing rate of electricity. Meaning that it could be that for residents in Sauk Village that a lower cost of electricity might be available to them if there are certain conditions met with solar development within the village boundaries. We're happy to talk about that, and that's a lot of detail. If it's something you want to pursue, we'll come back and revisit that. And then over towards image. You know, we started by thinking about this as a brownfield redevelopment initiative, but really some of the talk at CSEDC is oriented more around working to get the Southland to become something of a clean energy corridor where there is this higher concentration of solar development within this immediate region. So those are some of the opportunities. As with everything, there's challenges. If you go down 2 slides, slide 9. And this is based on my experience in developing natural gas power plants, solar and wind assets as well, is that talk is cheap. A lot of the developers that are coming to you probably don't have much of a track record. A lot of people are attracted to this business because it's new and it looks like there's a lot of money. And that's fine. You know, this is a big business. There should be new entrants. But to get this done, you have to be able to master the policy, the siting, the finance, and the actual construction of these assets. And it's not easy. And the thing we point out to municipalities is that you can start to work with a developer, you can invest a lot of staff time, a lot of your own personal time, and at the end of the day, not have a project that gets done. New York had a program similar to this, and after a 2-year period, only 20% of the projects that were initially identified actually made it through to financing. So, you know, I'm not saying that they're bad projects, it's just that the fit wasn't there in all of these categories. So part of our charter, part of what I do, is try to see how each project fits in each of these categories. We give it a score, and then what we try to do is convey it to the municipality and say, well, here are the challenges. This is what you're going to have to do to address these challenges. Slide 11, and I'm just going to give you the whole secret of the business in this one slide. You all can be solar developers while I'm here today. The whole issue here is that if you build a solar array of a decent size, the cost of the electricity being generated from that asset is somewhere between 8 and 11 cents a kilowatt. Right? That's after the federal taxes. There's going to be these solar renewable energy credits that are sold from that asset and sold to Commonwealth Edison. The value of those RECs is going to vary a little bit, but it will probably be between 3 and 5 cents a kilowatt. That's a subsidy, right? So all we're really trying to do here is to get the cost of the solar equipment and installation down as far as possible and get as much of the solar subsidy up as possible. So that at the end of the day, you're at maybe 3, 4, 5 cents a kilowatt hour, which is below the current ComEd rate for residential customers of about 7 cents a kilowatt.
What's a decent size?
Decent size is, I'd say most of your community solar projects are about 2 megawatts. That, let me give you a quick math. 2 megawatts is 2,000 kilowatts. A typical home, hot summer day with the air conditioning running and kids watching TV or playing games, it probably uses maybe 3 kilowatts. So that gives you some sense of scale. An individual household that puts its panels up there, that might be maybe in the 12 to 14 or 15 cent range before the state subsidies.
Isn't a megawatt 1,000, 1,000 homes supplies, basically 1 megawatt supplies 1,000 homes, correct?
That's a pretty good rule of thumb there.
Now, before we go further, I'm just looking at credits, because I kind of know a little bit about this. Are you, because I saw that you said that they were going to pay them, or you get paid in credits. What you put in, they go through their process and then they credit your account. Okay. To get this, is this going on a grid? How do you monitor this?
Right. It's a very good question. Is how do you, if you're going to give someone credit for participating in a solar farm, how do you know what came off that solar farm? So the process is this. It's a process called virtual net metering, and it's a tariff that has been applied for by Commonwealth Edison. The mechanics are this. Solar farm is built, and it is connected to the ComEd distribution system. At that point of interconnection with the ComEd distribution system is a meter. The meter monitors on a moment-by-moment basis how much electricity is flowing from the solar farm into the distribution system. ComEd, under the tariff, is obligated to measure what comes on that meter and then to disperse credits to all the subscribers, all the folks who have agreed to buy a portion of the output from that solar asset. You can have 100 subscribers or you can have 3 subscribers. It really depends on what the community and the developer wish to accomplish. But let's say I agree I'm going to buy 1% of the output of a solar array. And let's say that solar array generates 100 kilowatt hours in a period. I will get a credit on my bill for 1 kilowatt hour, 1/100.
So basically, you have to basically subscribe.
Yes.
ComEd or whoever it is going to actually build the substation. So you're looking for investors to invest into this project, and their payback would be a credit for depending on how much they actually invest.
Yes, and you've identified the math there. You want the cost of that subscription to be less than the value of the subscription. You want to be able to buy the subscription at 5 cents and have it be worth 7 cents.
Now, the substation, who determines where it's going to be located?
Technically, the presence or the location of the substation is an issue between Commonwealth Edison and the municipality.
Okay. Because I mean, that would make a lot of difference where it's located. Because they have to get that land also. And basically, it's not that you have it in your backyard. They would have a couple of acres or whatever. They would have to build the grid. They would have to do all the financing, and then you do the person, individual does the investing. It could be a commercial or residential person.
That's correct. That's correct. And many times, the service that the developer brings is a certain expertise. They have an expertise in how to get as much solar equipment onto a defined piece of property. They're also very good at finding properties that are adjacent to or relatively close to existing substations. And most of the time they want to avoid building a new substation because that's very expensive. So they tend to look at a lot of properties, and then they start crossing them off the list, saying too far from a substation, or the substation that the property is adjacent to cannot accommodate the added voltage. So they're playing a percentage game as well, and that's why they're so actively calling on the municipalities, because they're trying to find that one needle in the haystack of a great site that's going to have low development cost and low interconnection cost. The next slide, very quickly, and I appreciate your time that you're giving, you're all being very gracious, is that something that I've spoken to a number of municipalities now, and some of them have said, we really don't want to deal with this part. And I've said, that's fine. You know, that's okay. But I feel obligated to let people know, you very likely are going to be involved in some of this, because there will be someone, very likely someone will have a piece of property, they'll talk to a developer, and they'll come to this body seeking a zoning change or some type of permit. So the municipality will be involved at some point, right? And that's why on this chart we're saying, okay, well, the zoning is a low level of involvement and a low level of value back to the municipality. There are other options. If a municipality wants to stop there, that's fine. We can help provide the zoning background. If you don't feel your zoning language is strong enough, we can help you get good examples to reference. If you do want to move beyond that, to be actively seeking the development of solar within the community, there are other options that you can pursue. Some of these might include financing. We have some municipalities that have industrial development bonds that they feel that they can use to support the financing of projects within their community. You don't have to, it's just an option. There are other communities that say, we definitely want to have the solar in our municipality on municipal property. And that's an objective, so that's kind of a higher level of effort and a higher level of return, I think, is what's appropriate there. And then we have some municipalities that have said, you know what, we'd like to find a way for our local residents to be able to subscribe to one or more of these solar farms, as long as it saves them money. So that's a higher level of effort. You have to find the right project, you have to find the right deal. So all of these things are, from our perspective, a continuum. And it's not for us at CSEDC to tell any municipality this is how you have to do it. Our job is to help articulate what it is the municipality wants to achieve, set a timeline for that, and then bring the resources forward to kind of help that along.
And Mark, what does your services cost the municipality?
And that's on the next slide. Thank you. No, it was good timing. Thank you. On slide 15. Yeah, what we're looking for is a partnership. CSEDC is not charging the municipalities for our services. What we're anticipating is that we're going to be able to partner with municipalities who want to develop some types of projects. Our anticipation is that if we can identify the project, find the right developer, that the municipalities then would move forward with that development. And if the solar development is actually built, we would be paid for our time by the developer at the end of the process. So we're taking a little bit of risk on the front end, but we know that money's tight in a lot of municipalities. So we're willing to, based on our skill set, try to move through this process in a very fair yet expedited fashion so that we don't spend a lot of time on those 80% of projects that aren't going anywhere. Is that responsive to your question? So just the big windup is on slide 16. The benefits that we want to bring to the village are we want to provide access to technical resources, engineering, finance, and policy, right? We're local. We can be here in a moment's notice. We want no cost, no direct cost to the municipality on this. The developers are the ones that are going to benefit the most, so they're the ones that need to pay. We want the municipalities to maintain control of this process. That's what this really comes down to, largely, is being able to manage a process in a measured fashion so that your staff and the governing board is not wasting its time with a lot of projects that are going nowhere. And then simplicity. We think that it might be a help that as these inquiries come to this board and your staff, that it might just be easier to say, you know what, we're working with CSEDC, call them, you know, and we'll report back to you who comes to us, what they're saying, and we'll just streamline this process. I'm available to answer any questions either tonight or in the future, and again, I appreciate your time.
I just have a couple more questions. First off, how recently was your group formed as a part of the CSEDC? And then secondly, are you actively engaged with any communities today in any projects? And if yes, how many? And how far along in the process are you with those communities? And in what regard?
Sure. So CSEDC Solar was created as an LLC, I believe it was in July. And we're right in the midst of our kickoff. The meeting where we presented in Flossmoor was our first kind of public outreach to the Southland communities. So in terms of who is CSEDC, so it's Reggie Greenwood, who's been involved with CSEDC forever, I think. There's myself. I've been involved in utility issues here in Illinois since 2000, directly. I started at Nicor Gas before going to the University of Illinois. And then our engineering group is a civil engineering group out of Indiana that has been in the civil engineering business, profession. Engineers are touchy. For, I believe Eric Nagy has been in engineering for probably 20 years.
So it's safe to say you haven't engaged in any active participation just yet because you are so new.
Right, we're just providing a service. Our expectation is, well, I told Reggie that I felt that if we had between 6 and a dozen municipalities that wanted to engage with the service, that would be a good basis for us to focus on. We don't want everything, we just want to provide the service to the CSEDC members.
Joe and Mayor, has anyone approached us yet, or is this just an offshoot of your participation in that forum?
No, actually, we've been approached by 2 developers. One developer has actually obtained a lease agreement on property, which isn't in the village, but they have to go through the village. So the other parcel of property, and the only reason I found this out is because I had sent out a letter to the property owners that have developable property, and she responded to me and said, I've been in talks with this guy that actually got the lease agreement on this other property, and it was for solar development, and in fact it's very close to a residential development. And, you know, one of the concerns is that's the highest and best use for that land, number one. Number two, we have no zoning regulations on solar energy, which is another reason why I kind of reached out to Mark and Reggie. this was also on actually WBBM today, that there's a big push for the solar energy developments in the South Cook County area today. So it was on WBBM News today. So it's not just here in Sauk Village, as Mark was saying, it's actually kind of a regional, they're taking a regional approach to this. And there's a lot of people out speculating on this property, as the mayor was indicating to me. And, you know, for $800 an acre commitment, that's better than what the farmers can get for farming it. So, you know, we could be realistically surrounded by a bunch of solar development, and is that really the highest and best use? Or do we say, hey, work with us and kind of find the right fit for this kind of solar development? So that's another reason why they're here today, is because, you know, partnering with them would kind of make sense, because they can kind of say, well, this may not work here, but have you looked over here? Or have you looked, you know, over here versus over there? So it's kind of a, you know, a good way to kind of, you know, share the wealth, if you will. And in terms of the energy credits, I mean, that's something that, you know, the municipality could actually get involved with too. You know, we pay for electrical service for our water department. I mean, it's very expensive, so saving a little bit of money might, you know, bring down our costs on that too. So that's something that, you know, we could take a look at too.
What is it we are considering something on village-owned property though?
Well, or if we buy the credits or get involved, and does it have to be within the municipality? So, I mean, that's not even something that needs to be done here. So, you know, just something to think about, save a few dollars in the water department. Just something to throw out there.
I just have a question, a quick question. You said you worked at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Were you a broker for the gas?
No. I worked in a research group in the College of Engineering called the Energy Resources Center.
Okay.
And so I was an academic professional, as an employee of the...
Because you said something to do with the gas purchase.
Right. So my job is I headed up a small group that worked with the Illinois Department of Central Management Services to solicit offers for natural gas to be delivered to all the state facilities.
Right.
So Department of Corrections.
Because they did set a price for maybe a year or two. Were you part of that? So therefore you work with someone at the cogeneration plant every now and then?
Yes, we knew the folks over the cogeneration plant, and
Oh, you did?
we interacted quite a bit with Mark Donovan.
Mark Donovan, yeah, he's gone now.
And those folks there. But strangely, the university was not one of our clients. They had their own guys doing
That's what I was
gas.
asking,
Yep.
because I knew they had their own and they had a broker. And that's why I was just wondering, were you one of those? Because they actually set the price now for 2 years from now.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the hedging type activity that I was involved in, not only on the natural gas side, but also on the electricity side, when electricity was deregulated.
Yeah, well, they did sell that back, and that's why I was talking about selling it back on the grid. They produced the electricity and sold it back, and I was thinking this may be the same type of, okay.
Yep, same thing.
Mike?
What other municipalities have you worked with? You know, what other projects do you have going on with them?
With CSEDC Solar, so we have had, our initial outreach has been with Sauk Village, Madison, Fort Heights. I think that we've also, do you mind if I look at my list?
And just to let you know that actually Fort Heights, the mayor out there, was also being solicited by the same individual that was coming here looking for property as well. And I met with the gentleman here, and you know, he seems very legitimate. Flew in from Maryland with his 13-year-old daughter. You know, definitely understands the solar business, but that's something that he would have more technical expertise as far as vetting, you know, in terms of that. So that's kind of why I was reaching out to him on this.
So in addition to those, there was Blue Island, Calumet City, Park Forest. And we are awaiting scheduling for, I believe it's 3 others, but that's something that Reggie handles. I'm the consultant. Reggie's handling the drive forward and the schedule.
Do you want to talk about the letter of intent?
Certainly.
Real quick.
So the practicalities of the solar development business is that the developers tend to only have serious conversations with recognized agents of the owners of property. Because their feeling is, unless you control property, they really don't want to spend their time talking to you. Which is fair. I mean, they only have so many hours of the day. So what we have crafted and are willing to take edits on this, I think we provided it in Word fashion, is a letter of intent for the municipality to consider. And this is our engagement letter, essentially. And it says, hey, for a period of time, CSEDC Solar and the municipality are going to work together to develop solar assets on designated pieces of property. For a period of, what we're looking for is a period of 2 years to be the exclusive agent with regard to solar development on the asset. If other development happens, that's fine, but what we're looking for is a period of time where we can work with the municipality and the development, those matches. So we also identified that with regard to expenses, that there are no expenses that are due from the municipality to CSEDC, that there are termination provisions, mutual termination, and then CSEDC can also terminate during that period of time as well. Is that sufficient, or did you want to go through section by section?
No, I think that the board has a copy of that.
Oh, okay.
This is to let the board know, this hasn't been legal, this is just a draft that they provided.
How many of these do you have signed by municipalities at this point?
None. We're still in our first outreach, first meetings and information disbursement. Meeting with folks on a one-on-one basis. If the representatives of the municipality think that the board would like to hear more, such as this evening, we're doing that. And we're letting the municipalities set the pace on this.
On page 5, you indicated 200 to 250 million for solar energy projects.
Yes.
For income qualified communities.
Yes, ma'am.
Elaborate on that.
Certainly. So within this, let me back up. The Future Energy Jobs Act is about 503 pages long. So there's a lot of detail in there. We just kind of skipped over the high points tonight. But one of the major provisions in the renewable energy section is the creation of a new program called the Illinois Solar for All program. Illinois Solar for All is a fund of dollars that will likely amount to between $200 and $250 million that will be directed to support solar project development only, not wind, just solar, in income-qualified communities. An income-qualified community is yet to be fully defined through the rules-making process, but the assumption from all the stakeholders is that income-qualified will mean individual households or communities comprised of households that have a median household income less than 80% of the regional median household income. So a couple of things there. We need to find out how the Illinois Power Agency is going to define the region. You know, is that the county or is that the Metropolitan Statistical MSA or some other benchmark? But my guess is it's probably going to be the county.
And this bill is going to
It's already it's already passed the Senate and the House and has been signed by the governor. So it is statute that was enacted into law on July 1. Oh, I'm sorry, June 1.
This was agreed to with Exelon.
Yes, this was an agreed-to bill, meaning that Commonwealth Edison, Exelon, and environmental and low-income advocates all agreed on the language, and that means that it's being fast-tracked in terms of its rollout. So the Illinois Solar for All has some further carve-outs. There will be a certain amount of those funds that go directly to support solar asset development on individual homes, a certain amount that will go to develop community solar. That's one solar asset that many people subscribe to. And then lastly, there will be funds that are directed to nonprofit and government buildings located in income qualified communities. And we can provide those breakouts to you if that's of interest.
Okay. All right. We will be getting back with you soon. Quite naturally, you do understand we have to put this through the board and then also have legal look at certain things. So.
Understand, and thank you very much for your time. And if there are any other questions, please just reach out directly. I live not too far from here, so I'm just
Okay.
anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Okay, the next one is also Mr. Wizawati, a TIF agreement and project plan for Mr. Panos, Ted and George Panos. They're here. They're going to present the plan. As everyone understands or familiar with the property we're talking about is from Washington Square Mall, Washington Square Cafe, all the way to, I think it's the old, not including that, but the old car wash. So it's past the, pardon me? Yes, I'm sorry, the laundromat. They have a proposal that everyone got a chance to look at it. They're here to explain and to tell you, their involvement and commitment, and they're ready for that. So Mr. Panos, both Mr. Panos, could you come up?
Just to kind of give the board a little background, we've been meeting with Mr. Panos and his son George Panos. I'm not going to begin to pronounce the last name, but they go by Panos, so I'm going to use Panos. No disrespect. But we've been meeting several times, going back and forth on just some different logistics on the project plan. Each of you should have had a copy of this in your packet, which was revised on Friday after your packets went out, so I put the update in your box. I hope everyone's got the most current one. The only thing that changed from Friday morning to Friday afternoon was there was a late contract that was received from the paver, so the scope of that changed a little bit from just kind of piecemealing it to kind of doing the entire thing, which makes more sense, I think. So I'm going to let George go through the project plan and kind of go through that with you. Before I do, I'm going to pass just a summary of the cost project process out and how we arrived at the numbers, basically. So if you would take one of those axles around.
Thank you all for coming today. Thank you to Joe and Mirrors for helping us get through this whole process for the last few months. What we have is it sounds like you're really loud. It does sound like sorry about that. Okay, we have a number of different items that we want to do to the property. So it begins with what we want to do is to remove all the guardrails, as you see in the first thing. We're going to remove all the guardrails. We're also going to redo all the landscaping, basically from the ground up. We're going to dismantle all those railroad ties there, grade it down and bring it back to brand new decorative stone with decorative rock on the outsides. We're going to have a brand new pole sign. We're going to be extending islands around the signs to incorporate it in with the landscape. And we're also going to be adding some decorative flower pots. Yeah, giant flower pots to make it look just more presentable and more inviting. And then, as we did just decide recently, we did decide to redo the entire parking lot instead of just kind of repairing sections and reseal coating it. We found a wonderful contractor that the village knows well that could do it at a reasonable rate. We're also going to be grading the rear of the building that's not paved. We're going to be removing the garbage behind the smaller shopping center, behind the subway area there. We're going to be removing the garbage cans from there and setting up a separate fenced area for those so no trucks get to go back there. We're going to be painting the exterior of the premises and making sure all the signs, the lighting from the poles onto the parking lot, everything is up to par. So it's kind of broken down in all the sections, and we really appreciate your support. We're ready to make a large investment, and hoping you guys do as well.
And if I could just kind of add, you know, they brought a lot of stuff to us. Initially, it was just kind of discussion about the sign and doing a little bit of, you know, work, and the project kind of expanded from there. But, you know, typically, and this is in the TIF number 4, so the work that, you know, they're doing is partially reimbursable by the TIF. TIF 4 has approximately $400,000 in it. You know, these are permissible uses under the TIF Act. You know, we've done our due diligence in terms of ensuring that, you know, this project meets the standards of what is able to be done within the TIF district, and that, you know, the improvements that Mr. Panos is putting in are eventually going to increase the overall assessed valuation of the property within the TIF district. So those are your big marks, and I think we hit all of those. You know, I think that, you know, the plan that they presented, there are some elements that, you know, we're not going to be reimbursing for at the level that we agreed on. They're lesser amounts, and then there's one that we're just not going to reimburse, but we're still requiring the work to get done because it needs to get done. They've agreed to do that, so I'm glad that could be done. We have, this is also included in the budget that the village board passed. There was a $75,000 line item budgeted in the budget, and we're under that level. So we're within the budget tolerances without having to do any kind of amendments or anything like that too. So I think that's all I have at this time. So
I just wanted to kind of, because everyone's looking, this is TIF money. So this is not actually money that, you know, this is coming out of that particular TIF. As you know, we are the TIF administrators. So this is where the money will come from. It's not going to come from taxpayer items. It comes out of the TIF. However, and I made it perfectly clear, I just wanted the board to understand, there will be no money dispersed until all work has been done, and done to satisfaction of the village. In other words, we have to inspect everything to make sure everything is done correctly. They're going to do all the permit pulling and everything. Then we will issue after that point in time. So this is not going to be a piecemeal where we're going to do a little bit here, a little bit there. Everything will have to be completed, inspected, and passed before any money is distributed. Any questions?
What is the time frame on this if everything is passed?
We could begin pretty much right away, as soon as that is. As far as time frame of completion, not exact.
Oh,
It'll be about 3-4 weeks. The landscaping and everything else and all the other repairs should be maybe about 3 to 4 weeks completed, and then the paving would come in afterwards, which would take them anywhere from. All the crews could work together once the landscaping's in there, and the sign could come right afterwards, and everybody's ready to go. Yeah.
so you think you can do this before the snow?
That's our goal. All the contractors are ready to go. So, and they've been waiting since we've been working on this for so long.
yeah, and this is actually, if this board's pleasure to move forward with this, this would be up on the agenda for next week.
Talking about the agreement, the TIF agreement?
The TIF development agreement, which everyone should have in the packet, and the mailbox too.
Does anyone have any questions?
Not sure which is
They can't hear you.
not sure how to identify this document. Is that on the second page? It says, since this area would not be adequately paved, commercial garbage trucks will not be permitted to use this area for garbage service repair?
That is the area that's behind the smaller shopping center where the Subway is. It's not paved currently, so we're going to regrade it with gravel and remove the garbage cans that are back there and relocate them in between the two stores towards the back. So no garbage trucks will be allowed to go back there. The only thing that's going to be back there is their air conditioners and things like that. So cars can still go there in small vans and delivery things, but no large garbage trucks to really. Yeah, it's going to be open for the fire lane as well.
Okay, and the enclosures that we see in the packet
Yes.
for the garbage bins,
Yes.
that's going to be, I'm not sure which one is going to be utilized, or is it going to be a variety of the enclosures?
It's going to be one enclosure that's going to be similar to this. We're looking into wood or the vinyl. It's not going to be a clear fence to where you can see the garbage cans. That you see on the back page, it says below are unacceptable. On the last page at the top,
Yes.
it says those are unacceptable, so we will not be using those.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Who's going to be responsible if cost goes overrun?
The costs are under, we have proposals already set, so there are no extra costs.
Just to kind of answer the trustee's question, the TIF development agreement basically states the dollar amounts specified in the agreements that Mr. Panos obtained. With that in mind, if there's any additional amounts above and beyond that, he would be responsible for them out of his pocket. Once they agree to the agreement, it is what it is, yeah. So any cost overruns or anything like that would be his responsibility.
So when we get ready to get the money from the TIF, it is specifically stated that the developer is responsible for any cost overrun. And we won't.
She gave the microphone.
Talking the mic, you can't hear. Once we.
She still can't hear
this
you.
ordinance that we have to develop to get the money from the TIF, okay? It specifically states that the village won't be responsible for any cost overrun, that this contract between Ted and George specifically states that they're responsible for any cost overruns. That's what you're telling me. Okay, and I want to state that once we borrow the money from the TIF, that we won't be responsible for, say.
We're not borrowing any money.
Well, taking the money from the TIF, we won't come up with $50,000, we need $50,000 more when we already set on a price, you know. So I think that's stated in the TIF agreement.
The agreement is actually, it does state it within the agreement, the maximum that the village will be paying out. This would be on Exhibit B. It's also on the schedule that I handed out tonight too, which is in Exhibit B. So the maximum amount the village will reimburse is $71,385.59. The total project cost is $154,746. Where it says village reimbursed. Okay, well, we're not going to pay out any more once it's in the agreement. I mean, if it's agreed to that that's the amount, that's the amount. It's not going to be above and beyond that.
Well,
It states that, right, it states in the actual agreement that payment to the developer for certain costs as outlined in Exhibit A shall be reimbursed upon completion of the entire project. And it does state that the total amount that the village agrees to reimburse is $71,385.59. So, I don't know if there's...
Does it say maximum 71,000?
I mean, I suppose if you want to change the whole agreement, that...
No, just 71.
Right.
They can't hear you, that's what she's trying to, they can't hear you.
Just, you see what I mean? Just the one word added before the 71,000.
If that's the pleasure of the board, I don't see where that would be a problem.
Yeah, wait a minute, what you're saying, you want the word, that is the maximum amount that we will pay?
I would, yes.
Okay, because regardless to what he proposes or what he comes up with other bills, there's nothing in the agreement that's going to say we're going to pay any more than $71,385. As I stated before, we're not paying anything until after everything is done, is completed. However, that's the most money that he will get. That's the money he will get from us. If he cost overruns, if he spends more money, that's on him. I don't see a need to put it in there, but if you would like to have it put in there, that's not a problem, but he's not going to get any more than that. If he spends more and asks for more, he already knows this is what he's going to get reimbursed. Also, whatever work he's done, it has to be inspected by the village for me at the write-off on it.
Because whenever projects come along, you never know what's going to come up. And this village is really old, the infrastructure is old, you know. And you get to the end, okay, and they say, oh, we need to do this, and you really don't have the funds, and then all of a sudden, the village says, oh, wow, wait, we didn't agree to that. So I'm just saying, for our safety and the residents' safety, that we need to be more clear on how much we're going to pay out. Because we don't want to come up with $100,000, $50,000 later on down the line for some underground vault, whatever. You know, I'm just saying. You know. So
okay, if you want that.
It would be a good idea from a legal standpoint.
Can I
just
ask?
to add one word.
Can I ask if there's no objection, if that, you know, if there's no objection by the board, we'll add that verbiage into the, I think it's paragraph number 9. We'll just add that in there. So everyone's okay with that? Yeah.
No, I'm asking the board, do you want that agreement to state that, or is it okay the way it is? And if anybody, because this is what we'll have on the, to be voted on next week, as far as the contract, so we can have it signed so he can get started. As he said, he needs to get started as soon as possible. So if anyone has, do you want to change it then the way it reads, or you want to keep it the way it is? I'll go around the table. Trustee Jones, to keep it the way it is, or you want to change it to?
It's perfectly fine to change it.
To change it? Okay. Trustee Todd.
Just to let everyone know that we have contracts with these individuals as well, and if they don't do it for their rate, they don't get paid in full. So that's, and some of these contractors are also known by the village as well. So.
Yeah, but just for clarity, you know.
Trustee Todd. Find the way it's written. Trustee Tate.
With the change.
Oh, with the change, okay, change. Trustee Trustee Grant. Trustee.
I can go either way.
Okay. Well, then we'll have it changed, and we'll have it ready for voting on next week. We'll have it changed. It doesn't take that much to change it. And then you can put that on the board for next week, and we'll try to get the new contracts out to the trustees before that time so you can see it.
Just one final thing. Mr. Panos is going to also be getting lien waivers from his contractors. Not that it affects us as much as a protection for him. So, I mean, they've got a lot that they're putting into this too, so there's a lot invested in that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
That's October the 25th at 6 o'clock or 6:30.
Someone from the bottom.
Yes. I can make some more. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board.
I got a quick question for you. On this consideration B, it says all dimensions and locations must be approved by the Sauk Village. What?
It got cut off, but it's supposed to be through the building department, through the development department. the reason why is because the sign ordinances, you know, it needs to comply with the sign ordinances and the regulations out there. It is not.
Okay. Yes, trustee Tate.
The sign that fell down.
It's going to be replaced.
That's one of those in there.
Yeah. And we're going to have an island going around it, and so it's going to be raised up, and hopefully not have that. Yeah, that's what all the signs are going to be, actually. They're all going to have an island up there around. There's like three signs. One in front of the restaurant, the one in front of the Kingston, and the one in the small restaurant.
And who's going to maintain the bottles?
The village volunteered, I believe. Sorry.
No, the reason I asked that is because
It's actually in the agreement that they're going to maintain it, yes.
I'm just asking.
That's why we're going for large pots instead of like bushes and things like that. And hopefully it's something that'll look nice and something that the village might be able to carry on in the future. They do love it. So I think it's stable.
I just had that, because I'm the one that makes things.
I got a quick question for you. What about lighting? I hear you mentioned lighting in that.
It's in the proposal where we will be, any parking lot lighting.
Yeah.
As I said, yes, on top of the sign.
And there's plenty of light because some of these,
Yes,
yeah.
we understand.
Okay. I got you.
On each side, two big spots, I said.
Sound good.
In the proposal.
Okay, thank you so very much, sir. Thank you. Okay. Okay, next, trustee Brewer, SSAC.
I provided everybody a copy of the final version of the policy and procedures for the senior, provided from the Senior Advisory Council, and anybody for me any questions or concerns or anything, so anybody have any questions or concerns or anything?
On page 2, you stated this is submitted to the board on today's date, and then it's going to be submitted to the ordinance review committee.
I do believe so. I mean, that's my desire, but if you guys don't want it to go to the ordinance review committee, it doesn't have to go there.
No, I think it should be reversed. It should go to the ordinance review committee to make any suggestions or changes. And once that's done with your committee, then it comes to the board for final approval, rather than going back and forth. No comment?
That sounds reasonable to me. It saves some time probably.
On page 4, it has event planner, but in the leading paragraph, you account for all 7 people, so the event planner is the 8th person?
Event planner is the 7th person. It's the 7th person. It says advisors 2 positions. Advisor has 2 positions. It's more than advisors 2. So it's 6, event planner 7.
On page 5 is and we talked about this once before, it says that SAC shall have control over SAC's financial planning and all revenue collected on behalf of the senior center. In our last discussion, we talked about that being omitted or revised or something being done with that where SAC does not have total control over the finances.
Well, I think the discussion was whether or not I was going to have a line item or either. We have our own account. And since they decided to have the line item, we do our own financing planning. And if the money's available, and we'll do our own financial planning if the funds are available. And all the monies will be collected on behalf, at the village, turned into the village on behalf of the senior center.
So should that be revised to say that you have your own line item and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
I didn't think we wanted to get into the financial aspects of it, but, I mean, line item is fine, because it was a debate whether or not we were gonna have a line item or our own personal account. And with the line, with this particular phrase right here, that the SAC's financial planning addresses the line item.
So I'm confused. Is there going to be a separate account?
No, it's gonna be a line item.
There's going to be a line item.
To the village.
Okay. The last sentence, it says the SAC may not use the senior center for political statements and gatherings during non-political season. There's never a non-political season. People are always running for office, so I'm not sure what's meant by that statement.
Well, I guess they didn't agree to it. They think there's some off political season, so every season is not a political season.
On page 6, Panera Bread and Arts and Crafts are being held on the same date. How does that pan out? Does one Panera Bread issuing their commodities affect the Arts and Crafts program?
Again, on this particular subsection, it says program suggestions are as follows. The area is big enough where we could pass out Panera Bread that Thursday morning, also have arts and crafts. We have to develop those programs so we really don't have the real guts of what's going to happen. But we do have the space for Panera Bread in the morning. We're going to have arts and crafts, but we have to develop the program. It might go on another day. We don't know. It all depends on what we get.
Okay, at the bottom of the page, it says that it has the ordinance, matter of fact, 2 of them, 93-3 and 93-19. Is your committee suggesting that there's revisions needed to these 2 ordinances, or they're going to stand as they are?
These are revisions that have to go on to the ordinance, to cover everything in this particular document. They need to refer to them. I gave you copies of the 2 ordinances, and I gave everybody copies of them.
No, that's what I'm asking. I have the copies of them. I'm saying, are you recommending that there be revisions to these 2, or?
We just use them as reference.
They're just reference, okay. On page 7, the emergency contact forms. I'm concerned on how these are going to be maintained because of their contain personal information. How is that going to work?
We have several locked areas in the senior center. They thought it would be a good idea because we are seniors. And they'll be secured by the chairperson or either myself and probably the chairperson.
Go to page 8. On the material supplies and reimbursement fee, it says instructors may purchase said materials. However, all associated costs must be approved by SAC prior to purchase. So the instructors are going to give you a list of materials they need to purchase, and then it has to be approved.
Generally, what's been happening before is that certain groups had needed materials to do certain crafts projects. But what we were thinking of during this time is that the instructor might come in, like say for instance, this is a say for instance, they might want to do some kind of craft, ceramics or something like that, but they're going to charge the participant maybe $50 when the actual material only costs about $10. So we want to sort of deter the instructor from overcharging participants for a free service. So we want to ensure that they're not being overcharged.
Look at the alcohol and illegal substances. SAC shall be responsible for the staffing of the senior center. Is this staffing by whom?
Generally, we have volunteers on the group. That's going to volunteer to be there certain days if they can. A lot of seniors work, so it's not a real sure thing, but we try to staff as many as possible, even as possible.
On page 13, at the bottom, it says, at no time are any senior center organizations, groups allowed to profit from conducting activities, business while using the senior center. There's been a lot of things going on in the senior center, so I'm trying to get an understanding of how that's going to be curtailed.
Simply, you can't come in there and make a profit off anything. It's a free facility. People come in there and use it for free. If you're going to have a party, a wedding, or something like that, you have to pay. Other than that, it's free. People just can come in there and sell stuff and keep a profit for themselves.
Okay, what about the spaghetti dinners?
That's senior activity. That money should be turned over to the village.
Okay. On page 14, maybe this is just, some of this is a duplication. The alcohol and substances is the same information that we see on page 8. The refrigerator, storage space, and stove, page 8. Spillage damage is page 9. Trash was, so is it necessary to have a duplicate page?
Yes, because one is for rental and the other is for the daily use of the senior center.
And page 15, the times, do you want to include the times in there?
The time.
Well, you said that the person has to pick up the key from the police station and that they have to have a photo ID. I'm not sure the police station is staffed with someone there unless there's a prisoner 24 hours a day. So do you think it would be a good idea to place times in there when they can pick up the key?
Well, we discussed that because if they can't pick up the key at the police station, somebody from the senior advisory council would be available to open and close the facility for that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
So are we gonna send this off to the ordinance review committee next? Before we?
It should go to the review committee first. It should go, because why should you pass it and they see something too? So this is something that should go before the ordinance review, which the ordinance review chairman is here. And then after they've gone through it, then they'll bring it back for a vote for the board.
Well, I'm gonna just make a comment. This is very detailed, very, very, very detailed, and still yet, once everything get rolling, you'll be revisiting it. So, I mean, just to know, I mean, I really would like to see some programs get going on and get the doors open and get some things moving over there. And I mean, I just hope we could expedite that, because I could guarantee you, I mean, looking over this, I mean, it's pointless to keep pointing out and nitpicking on certain things until you get those programs in there, because I promise you, you're gonna run into other issues that you're gonna need to revise on, especially that key issue. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we know.
say, and like far as the community center, we have a lockbox that's outside of the police station where the code is changed per, but that changed with the wind also too. So as your programs progress, you're gonna come up with different ideas to, so I mean, you could keep adding or keep taking away, but I mean, there would never be a perfect situation to the ordinance or the policy for the senior center. So, I mean, we could keep nitpicking and nitpicking and nitpicking, but it'll never stop.
Okay. Any other questions?
When is your next ordinance review committee?
It is. It's the last Monday.
In September?
September, I think September.
When is,
I don't know. Monday is the 25th.
okay.
It'll be the 25th, 6:30.
And we could put it on the agenda for
Sure.
October, whatever. October.
Whatever the first committee is. To review it.
After you get through with it, the first will be the first Tuesday in October.
October, we do it that, because we're on a Monday.
Okay, well then, you said you're gonna be,
September 25th.
Okay. That's a week. So,
so it'll be the first Tuesday of the month. Okay. All right. Anything else, Trustee Brewer?
No.
Trustee Zupai, Village Communications.
Okay, I'm going to ask for the microphone, please, and then ask that everybody pass this around. And I'm going to share with Trustee Grant because I apparently can't count and made one too few copies. So, since I've been in office, and I was, just as a refresher for those in the audience that aren't familiar, I was appointed, so I came in a couple weeks after the rest of the new board members. I felt like village communications, and I'm going to categorize this into the four main categories: website, newsletter, email notifications, and social media. That we've been a little bit inconsistent and lacking. If you go out and look at the website, for example, right now, you'll see that it needs cleaned up. I've always felt that the current website is rather busy and kind of jam-packed and could be cleaned up and look a lot crisper and fresher than what ours currently does. And just reorganize it as well. Going to the newsletter. The Sauk Talk hasn't been out since this board has been in place. We need to get moving on that, get something put back together and issued. Email notifications, social media. I look at those as two in tandem, that anytime, an email is going out, the social media should be updated with the exact same information and vice versa, that, in case they're reaching different audiences, you want that same exact information going out in both places, so there's no confusion at all. So what I am suggesting here, and have had conversations with the mayor, is that we create another ad hoc committee that a trustee leads, and I volunteered myself for it, to focus on communications and also community relations. And I'm not taken anything away from anything that we've already got in place. So for instance, when I'm talking about community relations, corn and dog roasts coming up, the committee would be here to support whatever you might need in way of communications. So, getting the word out, you'd still be reaching out to the clerk to get the emails, the social media updates, although you have your own page for that as well, but we'd want to make sure that it's going out on both. I'm not taking anything away from what we've got there, but if we wanted to do
something else, I want to have that venue that we can at least be organized about our approach and how we're going to tackle those as they come up. It's a committee that would obviously be working with all of you. It's not something that I would be doing in a vacuum. So would want your input and would be asking for your input as this moves forward. For instance, primarily my goal here is to really let the clerk still have the email and social media process that she's been doing, and just work with her on how that moves forward in tandem with the website content, how that gets updated, the village newsletter, how that gets put together and disseminated. I know that if you go and look at the budget, for instance, we had talked about how to do some things with the newsletter in this budget year. I'm not sure that those in practicality are going to fly based on my conversations with the mayor, so we might need to revisit that conversation about how we put that together and how we make that available to residents on a go-forward basis. But I really think that because this has kind of floundered a little bit in the last several months, that we need a formal committee, although it's an ad hoc committee, to get things back up to speed and get things moving forward. So I'd ask for your comments, concerns, questions, and if you don't have any, I'll take silence as acknowledgement that you would agree with the need for this.
I don't understand. When you have, like say for instance, senior committee might have an event, you want us to give you that information and you disseminate it, or how? What is your?
No, so you would still, if you're having a senior spaghetti dinner, as for instance, you would still send that to the clerk to say, I want you to post this flyer on social media, the website, and the email. So you would still be doing that the same way you do today. What I would work with, and the committee would work with the clerk, as a for instance, is, information that's going out. Do we want things in certain formats? And then share that information back with you guys to say, do you want it only in PDFs? Things like that, guidelines, things that we would share with you before we just spring things on you. So, like I said, I'm not here to change or reinvent necessarily, but some of this stuff needs some work. So I want to improve and get us back up to speed with where we should have been all along.
I'm just asking what's the...
I don't understand your role that you're trying to get. If we give this stuff to the village clerk, and she's sending out whatever we need to be sent out, what is the committee for? Our limit of the code, I'm sorry. Say for instance, we have a spaghetti here. SAC is making up our flyers or whatever. Senior advisory committee, okay, give it to the village clerk. What is your role in getting that information out?
None whatsoever. You do it just like you would today.
Okay.
The committee is going to work on getting the website revamped. When's the last time you were out on our website?
This one.
Okay, and did you look at the calendar to see what the calendar looks like on the website? Could you find the calendar on the website?
Isn't that what the village clerk does?
No.
The village clerk doesn't? You don't put events on the calendar?
She puts events on the calendar as we give them to her, but if you look at standing meetings, there's a calendar on the website, if you can find it, that shows current month, next month, following month, and it shows, or it should show, when all of the standing committee meetings are, when all of the board meetings, the meeting tonight. The only thing, if you go out there and look right now, that shows up out there are the Tuesday meetings. Because none of us, myself included with my committee, have given her the information or Gerald the information to update that. So what I'm trying to propose here is that we've got a committee that will work with Gerald for the website specifically, the board and whoever, the department heads and whoever else on the newsletter to get things cleaned up and moving forward.
I understand what you're saying, but wait a minute, ma'am. I understand, I mean, I've been talking to this a couple of times with with the village clerk. I understand this, but she's doing all that stuff now. She's telling me she's not doing it, we need a committee to do that?
Doing what?
Posting stuff to the website. She's talking to Gerald about updating the website, and that's what she does.
All she has given, and Marvin can speak to that, but it's my understanding, all she has historically to date been giving Gerald are things like agendas, ordinances, things to post. She's not changed anything, and partly because, you know, we haven't given her stuff to update, but she hasn't necessarily worked with Gerald, and I'm speaking for her here, and she can tell me I'm wrong, about changing it.
Find out what you're doing.
Thank you. May I? Let me talk. Yeah, let me talk for me, because I can handle me very well. Now, and let me calm down first. As I mentioned last week in my report, I have been religiously providing the Board of Trustees an update on these 4 different points that she's talking about: the website, the village newsletter, the email, and so forth. I will share with you why we have not moved forward with the newsletter as well as with the website. True, I have been asking for information. I walked in this door asking for bios for each one of you, as well as a current picture. I received 2. I've received 2. None of them. So that piece could not have been done. But then, Trustee Zupan is absolutely correct. She has expressed a desire to work on the website and to work on the newsletter. For the most part, we have been trying to coordinate a meeting between Joe Wizawati, trustee, and myself. I must admit, I missed 1 meeting. Every other meeting that we had scheduled got canceled by this trustee here. So yes, we've not moved. It was my intent that the first edition of the newsletter would go out in September. This is September. However, we have 2 individuals who, yes, they would love to develop the template for the website as well as the newsletter. However, they don't want to assume responsibility for the ongoing content of it. So yes, the village clerk can do that. I do not need an overseer. All I need is if you express an interest in wanting to serve, because I don't believe in making unilateral decisions at all. So I welcome your input. I welcome it, each and every one of you. But I don't need you to make decisions for me to implement. And I'm sorry, I would not be a party to that piece at all, especially when you consider that we are no further than what the intent is, simply because some of you guys have work to do that does not allow you to be here during that time. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest, let's be factual, and let's not sugarcoat anything, because I refuse to be a party. Thank you.
I will say, Marva has not said anything that is not true. We have attempted to have several meetings, and for those that I have canceled, it is because my day job has caused me to have to make those other alternate arrangements. I try to make sure that when I can during the week, because I do work from home several days a week, that I try to get myself up here and block out my schedule so that I don't cause conflicts between the 2. I also feel that 3 chiefs is too many. which is why we have mired in this lack of movement, because it shouldn't be all three of us co-owning. You've got to have one leader and support, and a group that is, willing to make the decisions with a single leader, which is why I put this request forward. It is a recommendation. That's what's at the top of this. I'm happy to go with what the board recommends. I had a conversation, I've had a couple conversations about this with the mayor. He was supportive of this. I'm happy to answer any other questions and concerns anybody else has. Like I said before, I was not planning on stepping on anyone's toes with the mode of communication. The clerk is still responsible for posting the things that the clerk, as the keeper of the records, is required to do. Even below, I said, this is not taking anything away from things that she is supposed to be doing. But at the same time, too, as keeper of the records, that does not necessarily mean that the website and the newsletter are part of her job responsibilities. That's something that was a separate committee in the prior administration that, because of a relationship between the then clerk and the then trustee running that committee, it kind of, became a blurred line between how that was handled. But, I'm here to do what the board feels is the best approach to this at the end of the day.
Any other questions? Okay, we do have 4 formal ways of communication, one being e-blast, one being the Facebook page, another one being the website that we have, and then quite naturally Sauk Talk or newsletter. The reason why I was looking at splitting some of this up, because it is a lot for one person to do. However, if you feel at this particular point in time you can tell the board that you can do all 4, I'm sure the board would have no problem with that, if that's what you feel that you can do. I was looking at trying to disseminate this a little, spread it out, as I call it, trying to make sure that, we get it and not just one person is in charge of all 4. However, if that's what you feel, you hear at the board, and you can tell the board right now that you can do all 4 of those things, I don't see any problem with it.
I can assure you that I can handle all 4 of them, but know that I will be doing so with a committee. I will provide the necessary leadership, but I would not make any unilateral decisions, and I welcome others' input.
You said a committee, what do you mean?
Well, generally, you have a communications committee. One person does not do everything. Even like with the website, it was a committee of about 5 or 6 people who worked not on the website as well as on the newsletter. Okay, because the newsletter, the website was basically informing Gerald what you want on there. Yes, but as we talked in April when we first came on, we thought that the new website would be more intuitive and more interactive, and that we would not be dependent upon our consultant to publish everything on our behalf. Okay. And that we should be able to post ordinances, we should be able to post to our calendars. I think that it gives everyone involved a little more ownership, but then also we are not totally dependent upon someone else's schedule. Okay, so that's what I'm asking. You're stating that you can do all 4, you're saying that you need a committee. Generally, there is a committee. No, I'm asking. Yes, sir. Okay, you need a committee. Do you have a timeline that you can make this happen? I know the Sauk Talk usually went out every quarter, so we're not that far behind because we just got in May. I'm asking you, at this particular point in time, can you give me a timeline where you can
if you need to get the committee together, then we can start looking at update and upgrading some of these.
We have people waiting
Oh, you do have it?
to be on the
Okay, so
committee.
then it should
I mean, as I said, I thought that
It should
that
be
was
easy.
going to be my lead.
Okay,
in
I'm
the day
asking
when
now.
we took over, so I have reached out, and I was waiting until the two people, one trustee and one staff person, who wanted involvement, I was waiting for their input before going to the committee. I wanted to give them an opportunity to assist with the framework, because that's what they wanted, that's what they expressed.
So on your committee, are you saying that you're gonna use a trustee?
If a trustee would like to be on the committee, that would be fine. I have no problem that doors are open for anyone willing to work.
Okay, so you say you got this in place. End of October, will it be too soon to see all these things changed? End of October.
You will have a complete timeline for the website development as well as the newsletter. It will all be worked out by the end of October for you, with hopefully and we'll be just accepting content.
So I can look for
a timeline.
No, I can look for a report this third Tuesday of October.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Todd, ordinance review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. The ordinance was placed in your box today, and I do apologize for the lateness of it. The only thing that's been changed on the standing committees is we added to the ordinance review committee, we added the line, the committee will submit at least monthly all ordinances passed or amended for updates to be submitted to the village clerk to be sent for codification. We added that to that committee. In Parks and Recs, we added the line, this committee will serve as the sponsor of the majority of the village community events and shall be responsible for planning and hosting such events. Because other people do put on events, but you do a majority of the events. But that's the only thing that has been changed here. So I don't know if anyone has suggestions, if they want to see more onto the standing committees, but that's all that has been changed on it. And if you don't have any changes to be made, then I suggest that we put it on for the next meeting to be voted on.
Okay. Any questions? Did you have a comment? Did you get a comment?
Today is the month mailbox.
Oh, okay, well, you can have mine. Is there any questions on that standing ordinance committee amendment? If not, we can put this on the agenda for next week to be voted on. Okay. Trustee Grant didn't have anything, correct? Okay. Trustee Jones, you've had someone sitting out there for, well, we have had someone sitting out there for an hour and a half. So, would you introduce?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut to the chase and I'm gonna introduce Ms. Barber.
We'll move the mic because you're gonna get talked about in a minute. They can't hear
So
you.
you gotta get real close to it.
There you go.
Everybody hear me? Okay. I just want to make sure. I'm Marshall Barber. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here, to look throughout your village and see so much potential here. I don't live here. I'm a resident of Country Club Hills. I've come here a few times and I just see so many wonderful potential. I'm an artist, and artists, that's what we see, you know, so is everybody hearing me now? Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so when we see things, we don't see what really exists. Well, we see that, but what we also see is what the possibilities are. You know, the beautiful possibilities. So that's what I do. I imagine and I try to make those things happen. So I'll give you a little background about me for the people who are familiar with me or what I do or my art. Does anybody remember Martha's Crib in Lincoln Mall a few years ago? Does anybody remember that? Okay. Well, I did that back in, well, I started that in 1994. I was there for almost 6 years. And then I had another location in Evergreen Plaza for a few years, and then I had another store in a strip mall in Country Club Hills. And then when I saw technology changing, so what I still love art, so what I do now is I continue to create art, but I work as a consultant with several school districts, and the largest being Chicago Public Schools. And these are the things that I do for Chicago Public Schools. I've been with them for actually since 2005. So that's just, those are the murals. And I do these signs that are really, you know, extremely popular, especially back to school, so I'm pretty busy around this time of year. But, and to give you more information, I've been a artist for, well, since 1994, but before that, I was a journalist. I was a professional journalist. My background is communication arts. So when you all are talking about all of these things, it's quite interesting. So I sort of do both of those things. But now it's just a hobby. Journalism is just a hobby. But art is what I've been doing for well over a couple of decades. And I totally love art. And so, so that's what I'm trying to present to you. I'm sure you got the proposal that it was a rough draft, because what I was trying to do is show you what I like to do, and then you may have some things that you would like to do. And then we could make that happen together. And so here are, this is just a one-page example. If you all could pass that, keep it, or whatever. These are just some of the things that I can present to your village as an artist. I think one of the things that I think would really benefit your village is art combined with unity and working with the community and bringing everybody into the community to participate in a positive way. You know, and art for me, you know, thank you, is totally positive. You know, it's, you see the little cute, funny faces. That's how I roll when it comes to art. So, so what I would do, what I would recommend is to first start with the seniors, because the seniors have the history, and I don't have the history. I don't live here, okay? And I need to know as much as possible about the community, read as much as possible about the community, and my background in journalism, you know, not that I would be technically interviewing someone, but I would want to interview as many people, I'd say 50 or older, but hey, I'm 50 or older, but you know what I mean, okay? People who can tell me about this building that's been here a whole 100 years, and tell me what I don't know, you know, and because what my plan is in the beginning is, once I interview people and learn people and study the history and look around and drive around and take pictures, you know, as you see the pictures that pictures in the proposal, I want those pictures of the people, of the buildings, of the history in the community to be put on these plates. And it's really not that hard to create these plates, you know, so I could do those things, but I would also teach other people to do it. And again, it would be starting with the senior citizens, interacting with them. I think it's critical that I get started, you know, if this is something that you want, with the history, which would be the foundation. And my suggestion, my guess is, you know, I have everything divided in 1 year, 12 months, you know, so everybody, nobody's stuck, you know. I mean, you can see what's going on, you can input, but things would be in quarters. So the first quarter would be studying, learning, interviewing, and then of course, you know, of course the seniors would be a very critical part of that. And then other classes, say next summer, could include something that would be for the kids, you know. But I would definitely go for the seniors in the beginning. And then we also have here, too bad I don't have enough for everybody in the audience. And I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know you guys are spending a lot of time on a lot of very important things. But one of the things I would like to do is, you know, as you all were talking before, you were talking about communication. And actually, communication arts happens to be my background, but my communication arts is journalism. But communication arts is also about art too. And what I would recommend is a visual, beautiful, colorful concept that would be easy to create. I can create it, other people can create it, you know, kids can create it in your school district. And so by doing this project that is not that difficult to create, this is something that includes everybody, every age, every, you know, ethnicity. Everybody can draw. You see the circles, okay? The circle in the proposal. That's just my idea. I mean, maybe you have another idea, but you know, I really like that circle because that colorful, beautiful circle is not only easy to draw, but it also symbolizes harmony, and it symbolizes unity, and it also symbolizes progress on the road to where I suspect you guys are going. You're going in a, you know, direction. You're starting in a direction, in a group, a new group, but you know, as we move forward, we have to connect in a circle. And so that might be what, you know, that's just an idea. You know, maybe people don't like circles. And so, okay, so the murals, since you have a beautiful building, and I looked around, you know, we can have, you know, I see, what I would suggest is the classes could include pictures of all of the mayors, the history, many of the significant buildings in the community, just positive, you know. I mean, that's what I want to do, you know. Journalism has sometimes a history of being the other way, kind of negative, and yeah, okay. But this is public relations, what I'm talking about, okay? So public relations is about positive things, and that's what I want to do here. And art and journalism can be combined. So, so that, and then, so, okay, so now I'm looking at where it says a art community fair. Now that's a bit of a big project for a lot of people, but you're talking to someone who's done more than I could probably want to count as an artist. So, and I know many people who would, you know, so I suggest that as a possibility. This is something that I, with your help, could accomplish. Now, of course, I could do the finding of the good artists and the vendors, and I could work, you know, with the people who could help in a lot of different ways. You know, Mr. Jones would be very critical in that, and so, but I think that would be something that would possibly put your village, you're already on the map, but I mean, you have a lot of, like Park Forest, their art there. It's really cool, you know. And so if you have an art fair, that generates positive publicity. And it's all about publicity, art publicity, you know. And then, okay, when it comes to African American Month, and the reason why I'm smiling is because you know, every year, you know, I get at least 2 or 3 calls from different places, different schools, different municipalities, you know, and they call me maybe around the 10th or 12th of February because they're just now realizing it's February. We need to do something. Okay, so, and then they're calling me because they think I'm gonna donate or something. Okay, so, you know, my recommendation is that that's something I could do, you know, in terms of a display, okay, not a actual program, but in terms of a display, a positive, wonderful, informative display that people could see, and it could be potential PR, good PR, okay. Okay, so then, okay, I'm to explain, I'm just talking about the different ideas, and because I know people are tired, and I know people are hungry, so I'm not gonna, you know, take a lot of time, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of some of the things that I want to contribute. 2 days a week, you know, I would be willing to contribute as an artist, as to all of the things that I said, suggested. Those are the things that I could do during those 2 days. And we looked at the location. We definitely looked at the location in the Parks and Recreation Center, and there's room. Okay, there's room to have classes there. There's room for me to work there and create murals and plates. There's room to do all of those things, you know. And when wonderful things happen, that's another good opportunity to get publicity. Okay, so those are some of the things. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, but as the man who was talking to you guys about the energy, you know, I was trying to listen to what he was saying to you, okay? And I took notes of some of the things that he's saying. You know, I think he's a sales guy, okay? I'm not a sales guy. You know, I sell my stuff, but my stuff is supposed to sell itself, okay? So, but I tried to listen to him because I'm always trying to learn. And so he says, I remember him saying, what's in it for us? You know, I mean, so what he's trying to say is what you're probably wondering, you know, what's in it for you? What could be the benefit for your village to do something like this? And I have a few little notes I took. Again, the art classes, you know, you can, 1 day a week, you can, well, starting with the seniors, but during the summer, something for the kids, and of course, during that, a lot of things for, you know, regular age people, something for everybody, art classes. And that's not the kinds of things I would offer in classes. I would teach them things that benefit them, but they also benefit the village. Okay, so for instance, Thanksgiving is coming, you know, Christmas is coming. So I don't know, I don't live here, I don't know if you have decorations throughout the village, but those are potentially things that we could create. So that's one of the things, you know, it has to be, not only does it need to be a win-win, but when you spend $1, you got to make sure it, you know, circulates. So you can have art classes, but some of those people are going to be very talented, and they're going to make things that are good for your village. And again, the art fair, okay, you can have that happen. I'm not going to say it's not that hard, but if you know people who have done it for many years, you can make it happen. You can make that happen. Black history. Yeah, I'm the one. I mean, it's just a display, but it'll be a good display that represents African American history. And my background, by the way, is, that's one of my hobbies, Black history. I've been studying it ever since I was like, no, ever since maybe first grade. And so I can get it, you know, and get it in a positive way, you know. And then, okay, so I was listening to some of the things that you were talking about in terms of communications. And what I would do is, every chance I get, you know, every opportunity to photograph something that's positive relating to art, okay, is something that I would do. Positive, always positive. You see all the little funny faces, little smiley faces. You don't see anybody upset. Okay, so that's how art is for me, and that's how PR is for me. That's what I do. Okay, so, and then too, I'm hearing you all talk about Facebook. I got like what? I forgot how many, 6 Facebook pages. Okay, one for me. Okay, then I have one for my company, Martha's Crib. Then I have some other hobbies that, you know, a couple of other hobbies. But then I also sell my products online throughout the world. And so I sell my products on Etsy. So, and then in addition to that, I have another Facebook page that promotes that. So if you need, I can give you my number. And I know how it is, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Don't think of it as work. Think of it as fun. That's how I look at it. That's how I think of communications. And again, you know, to me, you know, it's not just about the art. It's not just about the murals. It's not just about the signs and the classes and the African American month and all of that. It's about positivity. You know, that's what art is about. Okay, that's how I absorbed art when I was a kid. And I attended a school called the School for the Creative and the Performing Arts. And everybody was in that class. Everybody. I learned a whole bunch about people, you know. And so that's good. You know, that's a good thing when people can connect with people who are not like them. Okay, but that's good. That's a positive thing. So I mean, it's always been that way for me, and I, you know, I that's why I think this proposal would be so positive, and for what the village has. I think we could just add color. You know, you have such a magnificent building, but all of the spaces there. You know, I mean, you know. What I would do while I'm moseying around and studying history, I keep cameras, okay? Now, everywhere I go, I got my camera, except the ladies. But, so I would keep cameras of the different buildings, the different things that I would be told about. And that's where I would go, okay? And then I would focus on some sort of art that could be here, 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 you know? And then I would too, I did a little research already about Native American people and how those are the original people who lived here. And I think that is so cool. And I mean, I think we need to explore that, you know. It's so beautiful, so colorful. And that's why I got that picture, you know. So that's about it. I could just go on and on and on and on. But people have places to go. But feel free to have any questions or.
Does anyone have any questions?
Well, as a lot of you are, well, you may not know, my degree is in art. And I totally understand. It takes a lot to understand and see, but what I'm hearing is an opportunity to bridge the gap. It's been a lot of disconnect going on in the village, and I just see, when I spoke with her, the opportunity to connect everyone and try to get on the same page and have a different idea when you say you live in Sauk Village. And I see that she has the background that could bring that to our village, where she could bring some of the, instead of oh, it was a murder in Sauk Village. Oh, there was a big art exhibit in Sauk Village, or there was a Unity Day in Sauk Village, instead of the negative things that in turn increase our revenue to bring us, you know, new homeowners to occupy some of the homes. I mean, perception, when you see and hear things, if you hear and understand what Sauk Village, oh, yeah, I seen them on the news, you know what? Maybe that's a good place to live. Oh, houses ain't that cheap. If you could change that thought process, this is what I was looking at, and I'm understanding what she's saying. And the classes would provide that unity and that togetherness for everyone to come together and express themselves. And like I said, it's at the community center. It's not just for youth, as you can hear. I want to stretch out, and I want to open the community center up and bring in everyone also. I don't like the separation with the seniors and with the youth. We all could sit back and learn from each other. And when I spoke with her, and this is a lot that I got from her, and in my background as far as art, and me totally understanding where she's coming from. And so that's where, this is how we came up with this proposal. And also, it's something that connected with the with our progress, with the strategic plan for progress. This all, it correlates directly with, you know, investing in youth and rebuilding parks and recreation programs. So this is just an opportunity to start transitioning into some of the things that is laid out for us. So this is why I feel, you know, throw it out there and see what we can do, what we don't like, and go from there. Yeah, that's my comment on that.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Need a microphone.
Question. So there's a lot of really good ideas here and suggestions, but I also see a price point, at least in what we've got here, that I think was probably a little bit beyond what's in your current budget. Unless you tell me that you can afford this and
Can I explain?
just pass from a budget.
I hate to interrupt you, but that price is not just for me. Like, I know you were talking about something with art and it costs extra money for supplies. Well, that price you're looking at, that includes the supplies, everything. That's everything. Everything.
Okay, but from we just passed our budget last month. So, you know, and Kelvin's Parks and Recs Committee has a set budget for the year. So I don't know how far off this is from what you can afford, to know if you've had any conversations between you to say, maybe this is something we could attempt shorter term versus longer term, so that we could start out smaller and work to some of these other things. Because there's an awful lot here, and you don't want to chew off, you know, bite off more than you can chew initially, and certainly from a budget perspective, I'd be worried that this might be a little bit more than we can handle up front.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And speaking, looking at the numbers itself, I just wonder, one of the concern is that when it comes to the money that's being spent versus the participation, how does that shake out? Because, I mean, we sometimes have a problem getting participation. And what kind of ways or what things do you do to, you know, get people get involved in and, you know, get part of your program?
Good question. What I would do is, I've been already looking at your Facebook pages and the different things that are going on, is I would be at those events, and just, if you all could introduce me, and, you know, maybe I could have a display like that, and not to sell, those are $700, but I mean, but just to see what I'm doing. And, you know, kids love art. They totally love art. you know. So that's not going to be, you know, a problem when it comes to the kids. Now, when it comes to the seniors, you know, it will be more work for me, but it will be worth the investment of time. I would have to go to them, okay, and find the ones who could point me in the different directions, because it's critical that within the quarter, the first quarter, that I get it, you know, that I get the flavor of your village. So then after I get it, then I can move on it. You know, then I can take pictures, and of course I've been taking pictures from day one, but then I can actually make art based on the pictures that I've already started to take. That to me will be no problem, because I mean, everybody who knows I do art, they try to get me to teach their kids something, you know. They want me to start a class for kids, and you know, but you guys have a wonderful location. You have a wonderful building, a wonderful place where you have everything. You have everything. So that's not going to be a problem, I assure you. The only problem is there are going to be too many people finding who's going to find out what's going on, and they're going to be people who don't even live here. Okay, half of the people aren't even going to live here, and they're going to be trying to get into the classes, and you know that will be up, you know, to Mr. Jones what his ideas about that would be. But there will be too many after 4 months, 5 months. I'm not going to say too many, but first of all, it's not going to cost like next to nothing, okay? Because I don't, as an artist, that's, you know, just how I feel. It's very, we're hearing about $50 and all of that for a class. That's just too much, you know, for people to pay. You know, I wouldn't want to pay that kind of money for a class, okay? So me, the teacher, I'm taking care of all of the supplies, okay? So the people, but there have to be a screening process, because there are just going to be too many people who want to actually be in the classes. So I would say anybody who's going to be in the class, they have to pay $2, okay? So that $2 is for if the little kids are going to need something to drink if they're thirsty, little things like that. I gotta go and buy these things, but for gas. That's all that $2. And then half of the people aren't going to pay, you know, have the $2 anyway, and they should still be able to be in the class, you know, because that's just how I feel about that. That's how I feel about art. Okay, so there's any challenge will be trying to say, well, we can only have one class a week, and she's filled up by, you know, that's what the issue will eventually become. And then we'll have to discuss that later. But kids are gonna straight up wanna be in my class, okay? I mean, they're gonna love this, okay? Adults are going to want to be involved. They wanna learn how I do the stuff I do, okay? That's what they are. And then I have other ideas, different cultural things that the, you know, adults would be interested in. The seniors, I would definitely spend more time interacting with them, because I'm not a senior, so I want to know what you want. I would want to know what they specifically want, what they want to do, what they want to create, you know, because their concerns, their abilities, you know, are varied. Okay, so they would be the ones that I would interact with first. But we're not going to have any problems finding people to get into classes. I guarantee you.
I noticed on page 3, you emphasize Native Americans and African Americans. You know, we have a notable size Hispanic population here in Sauk Village, along with other, you know, ethnic groups. But how would you address those people in there, you know, to
Well, what I would do.
we know February is
Right.
African
Well, there's a whole lot of things that my suggestions would be twofold. Okay, so when it comes to the art, the art extravaganza, okay, it's not a black thing. It's not a, you know, Hispanic thing, it's not a white thing, it's not a anything, it's for everybody, okay, who has something artistic to contribute, okay? So that's why I made that one general. And we can, you know, if African American Month, if you don't need a display, that's fine. But it's been my experience that many municipalities, they call me, and they call me in February, you know, too late, you know. So if you aren't doing that, then I can do that. Now, when you're talking about these other things, first of all, I studied Spanish a little. I wasn't that great, though. But in college, I did. Mi español es muy mal. Pero mi español. Okay, so I don't know Spanish that much. Okay, but if you want these things, and especially I do definitely think something should be done for Native Americans because these are some of your founders, and it's cool anyway. Okay, I mean, when you look at the art that they have, that is really cool, you know. And then, if anybody, I also, what I do is folk art. A lot of my inspiration is Americana, you know. I like to paint on wood and, you know, just that sort of things. Those are things that many, you know, people who are not African American or Hispanic, they get that. Those are things, like when I had a store in Lincoln Mall, I mean, it was like a new experience for me. It's fun, no. But anyway, most of my vendors, you know, I mean, were people who had a lot of experience with art, and they, you know, they were general in terms of their culture, but they had to be, I said, we have to sell what sells, okay? So they, you know, so I would talk to my artists and I'd say, hey, by the way, and this is back in 1995, okay? I say, now, I love those little cute dolls that you make, but can you make some in this color? You know, and that's what they did, okay? And they sold. So based on their art, all they had to do is switch it a little bit. Okay, so for instance, they would have the little, they were like reindeers, you know, the little wooden reindeers that they would sit on their, you know, throughout the holidays. And I say, okay, so that's really cool, you know, but see, you know, I want to jazz it up a little bit. So, you know, I just have to be cool, you know. The name of my business, Martha's Crib. Martha's Crib doesn't mean baby cribs. Crib means your house. Okay, so we're trying to be cool, so that's the name. So when I'm talking to the other artists who put their products in my store on consignment, which was really, really good. So what I had to do is say, okay, when it comes to your reindeer, can you give them those little cool earrings? Now these are guy reindeers. They sold, you know. I mean, it's just so much fun, you know. I mean, it's just, art is not a black thing. It's not a white thing. It's not a Hispanic thing. It's not an African American thing. It's not a gay thing. It's not a straight thing. It's not an old thing. It's not a young thing. It's everything, and it's positive. And this is something that everybody, okay, I could just go on. So, but, okay. So, any other questions?
Could you explain some of like the some of the things that we can generate revenue off of, like the showcases that you were talking about?
Right. There is one thing I believe to start you could generate. It depends on what you consider substantial. You know, a couple grand. Okay, substantial. But if you stick with it, you can really do good. I mean, there's no limits to what you can do. And that is the art fair, okay? So the first one, maybe there'll be 20 to 30 vendors, and these are just regular vendors, not food vendors. Now, the vendors pay for maybe at least $100, $125 to be a vendor in this event. Okay, so if each one of them pays 125, so we're talking well over $2,000, $3,000. Okay, so I'm already getting paid, so I don't need that money. Okay, so that could be, you know, and plus, I'm not going to be handling the money. You know, I would, you know, prefer, since this is your department, that would make me more comfortable. You know, if someone else were to, I would say, okay, so I'm finding vendors, which would not be a problem to me since I know so many, but, you know, they would be giving the check to someone else. You know, the check would be deposited. It would be a, you know, a fundraiser for the city. Okay, now, again, $2,000 is, you know, not a lot of money, okay, but it's a profit. Okay, that's a, you know, when you are a business, it's all about profit, or you're not going to be in business. It's just that simple. Okay, so $2,000 is a start, but it's just the beginning. So what I would suggest after that 1 year, and again, we're just talking, what we're talking about, my proposal is only for 12 months, but this could be, you know, a growing thing, just like the African Arts Festival. Not that this is going to be a cultural thing for African or anybody. It's for everybody, but it will grow just like Park Forest. You know, you could get corporations to sponsor it. That's where the money, those people say, okay, we just want a big old billboard, or we just want our name in, you know, included in a PR release that I would write, because of course that's my background. And so that could be tens of thousands of dollars, you know. Because I know the African Arts Festival, they charge people to come in. I wouldn't recommend that. You know, I don't believe in that. I think art should be affordable. But say, for instance, when it comes to your businesses, you know, community development, we could work in that way, because you know a lot of businesses that could generate revenue because they want people who've never eaten at their restaurant to eat at their restaurant. And it could be sort of like, you know, like Chicago did things with all the restaurants. Well, there could be 3 or 4 restaurants. It's a lot. But again, the first one will be a learning experience, you know. And in terms of what I project in terms of profit, you're gonna spend some like print, okay? There's, okay, so maybe, I don't know how much exactly that will cost. Okay, that's not gonna be that much. But still, we're only talking about $2,000 to $3,000 for that particular event. And I'm not, I haven't included anything in this proposal during this 1 year. Oh, and there's one other thing. Grants, got that. Got that. Well, you know, again, when it comes to grants, most places that give grants, they want to see something. Okay, they don't want to hear your, you know, sad story about you need some grant money. Okay, they want to see what you've done. Okay, they want to see how successful you've been in your capacity. They want to see that art fair. They want to see the success of the Black History display. They want to see the community involvement, which is, to me, the most essential thing. Okay, because if people don't want to stick around, you're losing money. Okay, but if you have something that makes people want to stay, you know, yeah, we have a new art fair. Oh, we have a new art department, stuff like that, you know, stuff like that. People will want to stay. They will be interested. They will come, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But to answer your question, when it comes to the 1 year, approximately $2,000 to $3,000 minus printing costs, okay? But the next year, and then the next year, and then the next year, it's not going to be no $2,000. It's going to be a lot more. And that's when community development comes in, and they're saying, we need some grants. We need, well, because I'll be, you know, doing that too, but they know the businesses, okay? And the businesses will want to be a part of that. You know, it's all about win-win, you know, and so I hope I answered my question without.
So could we say, I don't know how much work would be put in on your behalf, on behalf of you, but if we could get like a guaranteed sign up,
Yeah.
what number would you say you think that that's the tone of the village? Well, how many people do you think you want to see, and that you think we need to make a change, to change the pulse of the village? What do you think is a number that would be satisfying today? I'm just asking this just as a poll. I'm just saying, we have nothing. And what I'm trying to tell you is, right now, we have nothing in place. We have nothing, and you can't start anything for free. That's all I gotta say. I mean, you can't start a basketball program free. You can't start anything for free. You're gonna charge, and then everyone's gonna turn away from it. I've been down this road how many times? I mean, you can't get anyone to come out to do things, and you're gonna charge them. We done did it with the summer program. We done tried it all types of ways. If you're gonna charge, no one's gonna show up. So at what point do we say we need to take this village and go in a different direction? And how many people do we need to say, okay, you know what, I think that's enough, that we're gonna invest in the village. Because at some point we have to invest in the village. I mean, because we have nothing. Nothing to attract anyone over here. They drive right past here. So what do we need to attract people to come into this village?
I think you're probably jumping ahead a little bit. I would rather see you come up with a number on how many students you can handle on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's a starting point. If you say I can take 15 students per day, 30 students a week, then next year it may be 60 students. That's how you get progress. But I think to set a number from the beginning may not be the best way to go. I would rather just say, how many students can we get right now? Or 30 days from now, whenever your starting point is.
That's what I'm asking. I'm just saying, I mean, far as to satisfy, to say, you know what, this is something that needed. At what point do we say, okay, this is needed?
I mean, I don't think there's a number you can put on it. I mean, it's needed. But, for example, the summer camp, last year I think it was $50, correct? To join summer camp. And how many, 15 people? How many did we have last year?
It was $400.
No, not this year, last year.
Last year was $50.
Last year. How many people did we have sign up?
We had about 60 kids.
60 kids? Okay. I just don't feel like we can put a number on it. I mean, is it needed? Absolutely. But I just don't want to set our standards too high. I think if we get 10, 15 kids, that's awesome. That's a start. We have to start somewhere, like you said. I don't want to overshoot or we just kind of like shoot over expectations and say, okay, we didn't get 50 kids. Okay, so let's cut it out. It's not worth it. Because I think it's definitely worth it. But I don't want to like limit us and just put a number on it either.
And we want students who are really in the class to learn art. Okay, we don't want parents to find out, take my kids, okay?
No babysit.
Right. We want people who are here to contribute and to learn and to share and to enjoy themselves. And that's what, it's for. And in terms of success, okay, so when I opened my store, in Lincoln Mart, again, I was a journalist, totally different, lived to the, different career. But what I did, to answer your question in terms of how do we spell progress? How do we make that work, okay? So what I ask myself is, well, I need to, and you know, I want to see that cash register ring. Okay, so how do I do that? Just like what you want more positive feedback about your community. Okay, well, the same thing you could do to get that is the same thing I did when I had my store, is I got the media. You know, Sun-Times, Tribune, CNN, you know, just constantly. I made sure that I did something that was newsworthy. Okay? If you're not newsworthy, they're not coming unless it's for bad things. Okay? So you gotta get something good going on, because bad things will happen. That you can't, you know, stop that. But if you get good publicity, that balances it off. Okay? And that is what can happen. So, okay, in terms of numbers of students, I would, you know, it's not, again, that's not going to be a problem for me getting students. What I would like to see, and what you might want to be thinking about, what you value, you know, I mean, is exposure. Okay, how many times, you know, you're working on Facebook pages? Well, of course, I do that too. I can do one just for this particular art department. Okay, that's going to be positive. It is straight up positive. No, nothing even questionable, nothing political. It's strictly about, you know, the people of all ages, of all backgrounds, enjoying themselves. And it's not going to cost them hard, maybe $2, if you got $2, you know, because I probably want people to have something to drink if they, you know. That's where the money is. $2 is going. That's not. Okay, you got to contribute some way. Okay, but if you're working and you're making, you're really producing, and meaning the students, if you're working and you're producing good art, I'm not going to ask you for $2 because we need your help. You know, maybe we need to pay you lunch, you know, to help. You know, this is the kind of, that's the circle that the art department is trying to create. We want people to be happy, comfortable, okay? If they find out, if it costs too much to be there, they're not coming, okay? So if they're coming and everybody's happy, they're not stressed, and they got all the supplies that they need, they have all the space that they need, they see their work being photographed on the buildings or in the buildings in Sauk Village. These are the things that, you know, are going to get in the media. You know, I can make, you know, I don't like to, especially when I'm, you know, this is a public meeting and all of that, but, and I can't say, well, I bet I can, you know, but you'll see. And if you have any doubts, I have a better idea. Don't listen to me, okay? I'll show you what I've done for the Cool Jazz Festival. I'll show you what I've done for Martha's Crib. All of the publicity, I'll show it to you. You know, I'll show it to you. Now, if I can do that for my own company, and if I could do it for other companies, why couldn't I do it for you? And then when you look at how much public relations costs, this is nothing. You know, you're getting PR, you're getting art classes, you're getting art throughout your buildings.
So any other questions in closing?
I do have one question. I've looked at your proposal several times. I just wanted to know, you have a 12-month proposal. Is that basically the type of contract you're looking for, not less than, or is it, or basically what is, I guess you can say, your leanest, because we do have to look at, and I do understand what it entails, I understand what's given by that, but I'm looking at each month. So are you looking to sign a contract, or are we looking to go on a month by month? Because when I'm having no doubt that we could attract, but if something happens and we don't, you know, I'm looking in as far as mayor. How can I get out of it? It doesn't happen. That's basically.
I understand that, you know, and quite frankly, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of after 12 months, we need to talk because I'm going to prove to you in writing, because I'm going to document what I've accomplished. You're going to know it because I won't have to tell you, okay? So we need to talk, okay, because I know what I can do, okay? But to answer your question, there are things that need to take place, and it's not going to take 30 days. In order for me to interview, and it's critical that I get the foundation of your village, and I mean, I don't live here, you know, I have to interact and speak for long periods of time, when I'm going to enjoy it, to some of the, you know, people who are key. And these are the people who know the history, and they're seniors. And that's going to take a while, you know. And that's going to take, I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of other things too, but I think the first 2 or 3 months, you're going to see some murals, you're going to see a lot of good things. But that's going to be a foundation time, that 3 months. Then after that, then that's when the classes come. Then remember, you have to, I mean, not have to, but Black History Month is important. And if you don't have anybody to do that, then you miss the opportunity. And there are many other opportunities. I couldn't, you know, I'm not going to say a whole bunch of opportunities and put them in the proposal when I really can't do all of those things in 2 days a week, you know. So, I mean, I just wanted to do something reasonable. And these are the things that I feel that can be done, you know, during that 12 months. But it would take 12 months because there's Christmas, there's, you know, there's the summer. There are many times during the year that have to be hit. You know, like if I was going to open a store in a mall now, okay, so this is September. Okay, so September is slow. November, people aren't buying my stuff because they're spending money on food. I'm going to get paid in December. Okay, and then in January, then there's February. I'm going to get paid. Okay, there are different months, you know, and you have to hit those months, you know, and so when it comes to the 12 months that I'm talking about, the beginning will be an education. It will be, and I'll, you know, be getting all of this in, as much as I can, you know, and doing a lot of work. Okay, but after that is when things could actually take place, a lot of things. But then, of course, that room where the art has to be developed, that's going to take time. You know, it has to, a lot of things, like say, for instance, all this work, well, you know, all this art, well, you know, where is it going to take place? And I really don't, you know, I have so many other things I'm doing in my home, and the painting, and so that's why what you already have is a good location to create art. That's where the art classes will come, because like a lot of people have asked me to do art classes, but I can tell they want me to do an art class that only lasts, what, a couple of hours. But it's going to take me a whole lot of time bringing a whole bunch of stuff in, and then a whole bunch of stuff out that same day. That's too much, you know, for a 2-hour class. Well, if we're having classes here, when people come, say on, you know, the first day, when then they can come the second day, and their things have dried and things are done, it can usually take 2 days or even longer than that to sometimes create it. Stuff takes time, you know, but I don't have any problem putting what I can do, and I can show you my portfolios. I can come to another meeting, and I can help bring you a stat of the work I've done, the interviews I've done, you know, all of that. I've been doing it ever since I was a little kid. I love it, you know, but I just love art a little bit more, I think. So, but I have no problem in meeting with you and just showing you what I've done. I think I'd be kind of curious to see that too. And I don't have any problem, you know, coming back, you know, to show you. And I remember when, and I guess I can tell you this because he no longer lives, but when when I worked for Ebony magazine. But before I actually worked there, I had an interview with the publisher, John Johnson. And I remember during the interview, he was like, you know, because like in order to get a job, reporters, we have to send clips. Clips look just like this, okay? But, you know, that just doesn't mean anything necessarily. So I remember he said, well, that could be anything. I said, well, see, that's why I have my portfolio here. So I showed him the originals. So I can show you the originals. You know, I can show you the original work. I can show you the things I've done while in college, okay? So, you know, I was working for Advertising Age as a stringer in college, you know,
So do you think, okay, so maybe we could talk, and then we could come up with a trial basis or something else. Maybe we could work on something where, you know, we could show some progress without draining the pockets, first off. So maybe we could revamp some of that, and I'll just talk with you, and then I can present it back in a different manner as far as some type of trial error or some type of way of showing that
pick something out of something. We could pick something. I think that's possible, but you know, I mean, I know that's possible. You know, but say for instance, okay, so in order to do the classes, I can't. You know, we got to have a place. We got to have a whole bunch of stuff over at some place that's going to be there for a while. Okay,
Right.
So it could be, you know.
I mean, my thing, I just don't want you to, I know it takes your time, and your time is money also, but I'm just trying to find some way we can minimize, where we can find out exactly or close to the interest. So maybe we could just put a flyer out, we could start with a flyer or something, and we could try to drum up some type of interest, and then maybe go from there. How about, I mean, we could talk about that. I mean, you know, that way, you know, we don't have to drag on and, you know, any longer right now. So we you know, maybe close this out right now, and then we could just talk about that later on.
Okay, that would work. I mean, if that's what you want to do, sounds like a plan.
And we will get in touch with you through Trustee Jones, and I'm sure we can come back with something. It's basically going to boil down to what we have on the budget. And that's, I can just tell you that much right there. I'm looking at, I saw what you have, the board has looked at what you proposed. You have some great proposals. It's all going to boil down to the numbers. As you already know, we work for any municipality, it all boils down to. So we have to see where we're at. I don't see a big problem. I do like the project. I'm seeing, I don't hear a lot of negative feedback from the trustees, so I think they're all, you know, like what they see. Okay.
And I thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Trustee Tate. She had the mic? We have the mic down there. Resident handbook, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to delay discussing this due to the late hour. It could be put on the agenda just under my comments for next week. There's no need to go into a whole new discussion on it. So I'd just like to defer discussing the resident handbook for tonight.
Do you want it to be voted on next week? Is that what you're saying?
No.
You just want it to be looked at?
No, that's all.
Good enough.
Is you want it on the agenda as an item, or you're going to talk about it on your comments?
General comments.
Okay, yeah, so in other words, it's not going to be a vote, so that's all right. Going around the room, we'll start with Trustee Jones for general comments.
I don't have anything.
Trustee Todd. Let's put it back, huh?
The next ordinance review meeting is September 25th at 6:30. And I also want to let you know that the dog ordinance is going to, I'm waiting for the attorneys to get back to me because I'm going to send that off to the attorneys so it's not been forgotten. I'm going to get that typed up and reviewed and things like that. I have a question though. I know before we took our positions here, there were, they had voted on signs for the former trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be done? Is there, like,
I
is
think
that?
it's only one trustee, I think.
I thought there was two, for trustee Schultz and trustee.
Oh, yes. I don't know if trustee Schultz got voted on. But I think there was something that we talked, well, they talked whatever, but I don't, but that's something that, if you, could you find?
Go by the wayside.
No, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I have to do research on that one. I do, yeah, we can look it up. And you're asking?
Like, who gets the signs for them? Is that something like?
That's, okay, that's, yeah, Public Works has to purchase those and put them at the appropriate place.
The other thing I have is, I brought up at one of the meetings, a couple of residents have asked, because you know, the tradition usually is around Christmas time with the food baskets and the toys. And we'd like to start a committee now to start collecting donations for this, because it's a tradition that's gone on for several years. And right now, the name of it is going to be the Holiday Cheer Planning Committee, but we would like to have the first meeting on Wednesday, September 13th at 1:30. Now, Bernice, I'm sorry, but I didn't ask you, can we have it at the senior center? So anyone interested can join us in helping and planning and providing, you know, food baskets and toys. 1:30, September 13th. I'm sorry, I did forget to ask you.
Do you have a committee already in place?
We're asking for volunteers for the committee. Any questions they can ask our village clerk or myself.
Okay.
But it's just to start planning,
start planning,
getting
correct.
donations.
Okay.
You know, so we don't want to kind of break the tradition. It's something that happens every year. But then I know that you're going to have yours, and then you can let us know when you're going to do your Santa Fest.
Santa's usually the first Saturday. What's going to be the second?
Well, actually, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. We're gonna discuss it during the committee meeting, Thursday, 7 o'clock. So, I mean, that's not final, but we're looking at it.
Are you looking at changing it?
Yeah, just by being the second so early, I don't know if there'll be toys or anything before that week.
Okay. Well, if you, I'm sure you're asking for toys too, correct?
Hold on, I got the toys. I'm gonna, yeah.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
I'm sorry.
Trustee Tate, Trustee Grant, Trustee Zupan.
I got a couple things. First off, I have a couple questions for Trustee Jones relating to Parks and Recs. Trick or treat's coming up next month. And I happened to be over at the library today doing some things, and I was asked about whether or not we're doing trunk or treat this year. If you've given any thoughts to when that would be, so that they can plan accordingly.
We're planning, like I said, our meeting is Thursday, but I'm gonna suggest the 28th. And if I see some other reason why not, I mean, if someone have a legitimate reason, you know, in the committee, you know. But that's what I'm saying as of now. That's the plan.
Okay, and that's a Saturday, the 28th. Yes. That would be the day of the parade, followed by the trunk or treat, yeah?
Correct.
Okay, and then noon for the start of the parade?
Correct.
Is that generally, okay. And then I was asking the mayor today about trick or treat hours, and we were thinking going back to 4 to 7?
The police department normally handles that.
Okay.
You mean the hours?
Yeah.
Usually, the board usually votes on them. They can vote on them. Last time, what happened last year was It was 3 to 6. And a lot of people felt that it was too early. Kids weren't out of school yet. So the police department will go by what the board says, and they'll basically enforce whatever time the board says. So something you guys can think about. If you want 4 to 7, kind of, think about it. We can inform them to let them know. Because it's them and ESDA and the board are the one. I'm sorry, ESDA and the police department are the ones that do the patrol. So if you want to, I don't know how everyone thought about last year, 3 to 6. So that's something we can give you a chance to think about. You have a few weeks to think about that. You want to change it back to 4 to 7.
And then the other question they had, because the library did say that they've already got the books for the trunk or treat, but then the other question was the holiday with Santa, and were you going to do that so that they would know if they need to do books?
We're planning on the 9th.
The 9th, okay. All right, thank you. The next question I had was for Trustee Tates. I'm hitting everybody tonight, sorry. Ticket sales for the blankets, are we doing them outside of the Tuesday night meetings right now, or is it really just happening?
Only upon request. I'm here at 5:45 every Tuesday to sell the raffle tickets for the blankets.
Okay.
So other than that, if they need something, some different time, they can contact me and I can meet them up here.
Okay. And have we sent anything out via social media or the emails to publicize this?
There's something on Sauk Village's website for the raffle.
It's on the website, it's e-blast, and it's on Facebook page.
Okay, I'll have to check the website again, because when I was out there today, I didn't see anything jumping out
The
at
thing
me.
is, I did it when it first happened, and then the strategy is those things that are most pressing. So what was most pressing last week was the pancake breakfast. So that was to push last week. This week and going forward, it will be corn and dog roast and Veterans Day. That's giving it 2 weeks, even though we did the save the dates and the veterans allow that. But it's just strategic.
Where on the website are you? Yeah, I didn't see it, that's why I was asking.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Lastly, I just want to let everybody know that there was a little bit of confusion with the library about the collection of the caps and the medicine bottles. They are accepting those, so please feel free to take those and the plastic bags to the library, and we will be working with the organizations to translate those into the park benches going forward. Lastly, the Public Safety Committee meeting for tomorrow night has been canceled. Our next meeting will be the October meeting, and that's it.
For tomorrow night, it's canceled.
Reschedule.
No, it's meeting's October.
Is that it?
Yes.
Trustee Brewer.
I'm looking for a map for the, I think I talked to you about this before, for the CBD block grants. You said there's.
CDBG?
Yeah, you said there's specific areas in the village that
Yes.
you can fund.
Yes.
You got a map.
Yes.
Can you tell me where I can get a copy of
Yes.
that?
Yes.
So can I have it?
Yes. You can get a copy through Sherry in her, she has one. The map is, well, I guess you can condense it. Condense it down, but there's a big one on her in the wall right there in the room where Sue is basically at, but then she can get you a small copy. So yes, there is one. Oh, okay. I just wanted to announce to everyone, tomorrow is the last day. Does everyone know that we were collecting for the disaster relief down in Texas? Okay. We have a convoy of tractor trailers that are leaving tomorrow So if anyone knows of anyone or has themselves wants to donate some of the items, water, canned goods, and et cetera, non-perishable items, should get them to the fire department, hopefully by tomorrow. Gift cards are accepted, preferred, basically gift cards are preferred. So Target or any type of gift card, they're basically preferred. I know there's a text number that you can call and get a $10 donation from your phone, but you can do that. But if you want to give gift cards, that's a little bit more personal, but then worth they can use for what the person can use for what they need to use it for. So again, we have a convoy that's going down. I think it's something like 6 villages, and they're all gathering tomorrow, and they're leaving for Texas. So if you can get that in as soon as possible. If you have any questions, quite naturally contact the Village Hall. If you have any questions, you can contact me after the meeting tonight or whatever, but you can get them up here. And I would say, if it's tomorrow, bring them to the Village Hall. We can disseminate them ourselves. So if they're leaving Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow? Okay. All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.